Come see ConMan. It's the stuff that dreams are made of.
We have a very special guest with us, Adolfo Dorta.
You got it.
Who is the con organizer. It's great to get a chance to talk to him. We're in the middle of the con. There's a lot going on, and we rarely get a chance to talk to the organizers during this busy time. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you guys for giving us a chance to go ahead and talk about this.
Yeah, great. So this is actually the second one. The first one, I believe, was touted as the most anticipated horror con of 2011, and you delivered. I find that really fascinating. Most people won't even show up to a con until its fourth or fifth version. How did you pull it off?
Well, we just did it the old-fashioned way. Word of mouth, handing out flyers, doing the on-the-street work. It's I think a lot of times people forget about the hard work involved. I think if you can just buy an ad, post something on Facebook, get a radio spot, that's it, that you've done the work. But you got to talk about it every day. You got to be excited about it every day. You got to get other people excited about it so that they can go ahead and just spread the word. And it was one of those things where it was a very grassroots effort, and it took sort of flight on its own. And we were, the most anticipated event in 2011, just based off, the incredible hype that we created, and people want to see, whether you're going to deliver or fail, and
right.
It was definitely one that was watched, and I think we did pretty good, and I'm very proud with what we did both in Indianapolis and now here in Atlanta.
If someone was coming to a con or your con for the first time, what are some of the things they can expect to see and do?
I think Days of the Dead, there's a certain flavor about it that other horror conventions don't have. And again, not to tout our own horns, but I think it's definitely something that the fans bring. I can go ahead and set up celebrities, and we can set up vendors, and we can set up, events just like every other show. But that X factor, that sort of ingredient that you can't buy, you can't, control, is the fans. And it's something about this show where, I don't know what it is, but it's just the fans come out, they're in costume, they're partying till all hours of the night, they're being very enthusiastic about the show. They're just, they're providing that lifeblood for the convention. And again, it's not something you can manufacture. It's not something that, we can go ahead and supply. It's the people coming in to enjoy the show, they supply that energy, and that's the one incredible thing that I think that we have that other conventions don't have. And it gives a good sense of the unexpected. Like, anything can happen, and if you've been hanging out this weekend, you definitely know that anything can happen.
Yeah, we've been really impressed with everything that we've seen. The fans are fantastic. The guests are very accessible. To sit down and talk with Sid Haig for 10, 15 minutes. And not just me, anyone who comes here gets that same experience is amazing. And then the events, and the fact that it's over 3 days.
Yeah.
You've alluded to this. It's something that we won't even cover, these sort of sign-and-go cons. So, at some point you must have thought, well, which way are you going to go with it? And you've decided to make it a real convention instead of just a come in and one day autograph signing cons. What are your feelings on that? Like, why did you decide it could have been more profitable just to put some days people in a room and sign some autographs?
It's one of those things. I've been going to conventions for close to 20 years. I used to go out to comic book conventions and sci-fi shows and whatnot when I was very young. And as a fan, I've been going to horror conventions for about 8 years or so. And the kind of shows that I like are the ones that it's an experience over the whole weekend. I'm not a big fan of, what I call donut shop shows, where essentially you go in, you make your selection, you make your purchase, and then you get out. I like to go for the weekend. I like to have the experience. It's for a lot of us in our 9-to-5 worlds, we just, how do you explain this to somebody? It's an escape for us, and I want to be gone for the whole weekend. I don't want to just go for a couple of hours, be done, and come back. I want to be able to step into that other world that I can't step into during the regular week.
Yeah, and you get that connection with people who with similar interests that you just won't get over a day.
I mean, even I've been doing this for 2 years, and I explaining it to my coworkers at my day job, and or even your family. I explain this to somebody. Really, explain this to somebody. I mean, you've got people walking around, dressed in all manner of costume. You got Jason on one end, you've got Freddie on the other, you've got the celebrities. It's utter insanity, and to kind of put it into a context where people can understand, and they just don't get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they don't get our fascination with this sort of subculture.
Exactly.
The horror and being frightened, and the monsters and the blood and the gore. They don't. They just don't get it, and it's one of those things where I can come here. And just knowing that you too are a part of where I'm at, I don't have to explain it to you.
Yeah.
You understand, and it's like being amongst an extended family.
Yeah.
I mean, you come here, you see doctors, you see accountants, you see lawyers, you see all level of professionals, you see all ages, all kinds of different people from all different walks of life. As far as what draws us to this, I don't know. I think that there's definitely a thrill in the business of being scared. It's not the business of being given something that you don't expect, that you don't see every day. But it seems like if there's a culture that really looks to push barriers, that really looks to take it to that next level, it's with the horror genre and the horror fans.
Yeah,
and you see that in these kind of conventions, at least the ones that are done well. Horror fans, they party and they have a good time, and they are more passionate than any other fans that I know of.
So I think one of the keys to your success is that, at least with this con, and maybe you do this, in Indianapolis as well, you reached out to the local celebrities, the local fan base, and got them involved, and with Circus Envy as the MC. So how did that come about? How do you even find these people?
Well, actually, I mean, I've known Scott for a while, from going to other horror conventions, and meeting him as a fan, and. He actually, one of our partners, Bill Philpott, he was at a show in Tennessee, and, Circus Envy approached him and said, you know what, you guys really should do a show in Atlanta. And, I'm originally from Florida, so, I love the South. I have a lot of friends in Atlanta, in the area. And, we were considering an expansion, and it just, we got to talking to a lot of other local people, like Luke Godfrey from Chamber of Horrors, Shane Morton from the Spook Show and whatnot, and it just seemed like there was this very ripe kind of hub for horror and a big appreciation locally, but yet as many events as there are going on all the time in Atlanta, there wasn't one that really brought all of that together under one roof. So the locals have been here. They've been asking for a horror convention in this area for a long time. They know what they want, and it was great to have the guidance of Circus Envy and Luke and Shane and all the other players locally to really kind of guide us into what we needed to do in Atlanta to really please the fans.
Excellent. So with all the success that you've had this year in Atlanta, what are your plans for next year, and what improvements are you going to make?
Well, next year we're actually moving the show downtown to the Sheridan in downtown Atlanta. The dates are going to be March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And we're expanding the space to just, do an even bigger show, have a lot more freedom to bring in more guests. And we're going to be adding a tattoo element as well to, we feel like the tattoo culture and the sort of body modification culture is another thing that, a lot of people that would be in the horror movies and stuff like that tie in. Yeah. And we're also looking to bring a music element into it as well, get some good, horror punk and metal bands and just kind of just, basically do a lot of the things that we did here, but just on a bigger scale. I actually, if I can shout out, there's a website that I run as well that actually kind of is what got me into doing all this. It's FromDuskTillCon.com. And, just you can go ahead and get news on all sorts of conventions, and that's actually how, I became involved with this. Me and, our other partner, Rick Lara, started this site just to, provide fans a central hub to sort of communicate with each other about, these very things that we're talking about. They could look us up on Facebook as well. And we have our Indianapolis show just right around the corner in July 6, 7, and 8 in Indianapolis, Indiana. We're going to be at the Wyndham Indianapolis West. We're definitely, looking to raise the roof off that one again.
Thank you very much.
Thank
great
you.
con.
Thank you for having me.
We're having a great time.
Appreciate it.